It's time to talk basketball. Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He is Steve Purciello, longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, athletic director, and he is also the host of Celtic Chalk Talk. Celtic Chalk Talk is a pod dedicated to the latest news and opinions surrounding the Boston Celtics from a lifelong fan, Steve. The pod will drop new episodes every Monday, but this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 24 minutes of NBA random thoughts online, anywhere bar none. This podcast was born out of the content in Steve's 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 24 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today, we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article, where he discusses his thoughts after week 3 of the 2025-26 NBA season. Steve, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. The clock is on. All right. Tale as old as time in Memphis. What I mean by that is this a coach's team or is this a player's team? What's going on in Memphis?
The NBA is a players' league.
Yeah.
But, and this is a foreign coach, so he's not familiar with the American, where I think the biggest rule you want to make as a coach in the United States is get along with your star player. I don't think that's working out real well there. Now, Ja Morant, and that doesn't make Ja Morant innocent in anything.
Okay.
He's got to sit down. He's got to do some thinking. And by that, yes. And I said it was a bad look for the city. It was a bad look for him and the team. For him, what the average person who is 50-50 on the NBA, they look at him and say, look, the guy's making ridiculous amount of money. If somebody was going to pay me that, I'd jump off a building. And look at what this guy's doing. He's throwing a tantrum. Now, Ja Morant, claiming him, but I'm pulling back. He's a star player, and everybody around him and his little entourage has kissed his you-know-what. So he doesn't understand that, and I'm not saying it's right, but he doesn't understand that you play hard no matter what. You don't count. If you have a problem, keep it. You can talk about it, but play hard. People want to see that. Again, he's making money people will never make in their lifetime in a year. So they want to go to a game or watch on TV a player who's giving everything he's got. That's why guys who run and play hard become favorites, even if they're only making a small amount of money. He doesn't quite get that. What does it do with the city? Memphis has got its own problems. A lot of players in the NBA don't want any part of it. I know LeBron made a joke about it a couple of years ago about going to Memphis. Don't want to be there. And there's a lot of reasons why. With him doing this and the coach being there, it just makes it harder to attract players. Now, they're a small market, so they don't really go out at free agent market at all.
Yeah.
Just signed Jaren Jackson to a good contract. The max, I don't know if it was max, but close to max contract. Jaren Jackson's one of the best players that nobody knows about. Now, think about it, if Jaren Jackson sees nobody's coming, he's going to, I want out. I want to get out. And where does that franchise go? So Ja is hurting a lot more than just him and the coach's relationship. He's hurting things.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, tough situation. I agree with you. You've got a job to do the job. What's surprising to me when I look at Ja's numbers, his numbers, the points per game are down, but only by 3 points. So not horrible. The marked difference in Ja Morant this season is his shooting percentage. This is a 30%, 31% free three-point shooter. He's shooting 12% from deep this season, which is just mind-boggling. That's just unbelievably bad. Overall field goal percentage is down. So this is a guy who's maybe pouting, taking bad shots, rushing shots, and my gosh, just do the job. Do the job. But I don't know how this is going to play out. The situations like this, didn't this happen with Jimmy Butler last year in Miami? And we saw how that ended up. That's got to be the end of this, isn't it? He's out of Memphis.
There's an alarming piece to this. Ja Morant, when you watch his game, he scores most of his points dynamically going to the basket and doing things. His numbers have changed this year. He doesn't go to the basket as much. So he's realizing about injury. And to be honest with you, yes, he's an average shooter. So that's also something else, another dynamic to it. If somebody's looking at, and by the way, supposedly his market is very small. So if somebody's looking to deal for him, there's, if I'm seeing it, I'm sure a GM in another city is seeing the same.
Yeah. Tough situation. Let's hope things clean up in Memphis. Oklahoma City has proven you can do good in a small market. So, let's hope Memphis gets through this. But we got to move on. Steve, as always, loves to talk about the Lakers. I can't, with apologies, it just keeps coming up over and over again. I don't know what's going on with Steve, but he did bring him up again this week. And he called out that they are really good. They have started off really well without their top three players on the court at the same time. So how have the Lakers been so good?
First of all, I don't want to say they're really good. I think they're winning some close games. And this was written before last night when I know Atlanta had a few guys out.
Yeah.
They drilled the Lakers, which was a shame. But the Lakers, they're winning close games, and that's important.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the NBA, I hate to make a big thing about it, but it is a big thing. The point differential usually tells you what your record is.
Yeah.
Of the 5 best teams in the Western Conference, 4 of them have a point differential over 10 points. And by that, how much do you allow and how much you score?
Right.
Well, 4 teams have an above 10-point thing. One team in the top 5, and I believe they were second going into last night, was the Lakers. They only had and it went down after last night, obviously, but they only had a 3-point. Now, to me, if you look at the end of the year, it's usually tried and true.
Sure.
And so, though I think they have a chance to be the second best team in the West, however, that makes me think that they're going to go through a downfall. As hard as it is for me to say it, one of the things that jumped out at me, maybe JJ Reddick has really got a clue. Maybe that's part of it because he's getting these people to buy in and play. I don't know. I don't watch him enough. It's too late for me. I'm sleeping by then. But you tell me your read.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate you asking, right? I think, listen, and I'm not going to talk specifically about the Lakers. I'm just going to talk in very general terms. When you take a team that didn't change really from the end of one season to the start of the other, and you see a marked difference in that team, that's the coach, right? That's the coach because the coach has had an offseason to drill some thoughts into this team, to prep the team. And I got to give credit where it's due. I think you nailed it. I think JJ Reddick understands the job. He understands the role. I'm a little bothered after the Atlanta Hawks game yesterday. He held a 90-second press conference. He was furious. And I think as a player, if your coach is getting that upset with you about a loss on the road in November, that could get tiring pretty quickly. But he is getting through to these players. They're playing good basketball. Marcus Smart is not a difference maker. He is not the reason the Lakers are that much better this year. It's got to be because JJ Reddick had a full offseason, full training camp with Luka and all the other players, and he's got a plan that's working. Now, the key is going to be how long does this last? And that's the thing that I'm questioning because this is the same team that kind of was a middling team last season. And generally, things always go back to normal, right? It's either a good start and something they're going to build on, or it's just a little bit of an aberration and then they'll dip. We'll see by the end of the year.
I think he's done a good, as we said, I think he's done a good job. I think the Lakers, I can't keep emphasizing, first of all, LeBron's not playing, but more importantly, and don't be hating DeAndre Ayton. He's playing well, but I guess what I'm saying is they're just not that good out of those two guys. And I just don't see, like, he's defying, when you look at a team, you say, okay, 40 wins, 50 wins, whatever. When you look at the Lakers, yeah, those 3 guys are good. However, you just don't see it, but it's happening. So it's just like in the opposite, you talk about the coach doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, the key is to see if it stays, but I have to call it the great DeAndre Ayton rhyme. Well done. That's going to be on a T-shirt somewhere, I'm sure, here in LA. But we got to keep going. This week's up-and-coming player, high draft pick, coming off a disappointing rookie season. Tell us about Alex Sar.
Well, Alex Sar is really, last year he looked like, I don't want to say a bust, but he wasn't going to live up to being the second guy in the draft. Last year was his first year, and his numbers were not great. 13 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Not great. This year, first of all, he's become an outstanding three-point shooter, which is great for a guy that's 7 foot. He's getting 19 points a game, so he's on the borderline of being a real good player. And he's only playing a little over 30 minutes a night, 8 rebounds and almost 4 assists. So he's really progressed. Now, the problem here is the Washington Wizards are terrible. They can't get out of their own way. They don't defend. They don't do much of anything. But, and I guess when you're in that position, you're looking for pieces. You know, you have this piece, you have that piece. They thought that Bub Carrington would be a piece. He's really not gotten better. Kalalabi hasn't gotten better. So they're searching for pieces that they can put together and maybe then have a legit team. But they're far away from being decent. So maybe the question becomes, is Sar doing well because there's nothing else there?
Right.
It does appear that he's good. And in the modern NBA, 7-footers that can shoot over 40% from three, those guys are like gold.
Yeah.
So it changes the whole game because it takes the other team's shot blocker away from the basket. So it's an interesting situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird to me to talk about 7-footers shooting and needing to shoot from deep, but that's the game. That's the way the NBA is played today. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. If nothing else, Alex Sar is proving that he can be good, which I think is important for him in his career. Another guy who's proving he can be the number one guy when needed is Jalen Brown. You called this out. He's been really good for Boston, but the Celtics are struggling. What's going on with Jalen Brown and the Celtics?
Jalen Brown, the big question is, can he fulfill Tatum's role and play and score and do all those things? I think it was 27.7, but I think that went up a little bit after the game the other night against Orlando. He's become the master of the mid-range. He can hit that shot all night, a little tiny, and he's got great footwork. So he's become very good at that. Naturally, he lost Tatum. Not going to do as well as a team, but Jalen Brown has proven himself as a number one guy on most teams. And that's a big thing for them. He's got to get help. Naturally, Tatum, if he's healthy, he's got Brown. That's pretty good number 2.
Yeah.
Brown is Boston. They're searching for number 2. I guess Peyton Pritchard might be, or Derek White, although White's not playing real well. They're trying to figure this out on the fly, and it's not an easy situation. They lost. We'll talk about the loss against Utah in a little while, but they lost a game against Utah, which they should win, especially at home. So there's a lot of things that are loose and have to be put together for Boston.
Yeah. Jalen Brown, 28.1 is what he's up to. So yeah, definitely answered the bell. And is the expectation in Boston that they just keep our heads above water until we get our team back? Because we know Jalen Brown, when Tatum comes back, that changes everything, assuming he comes back this year. Is that the goal? Just keep our heads above water, make it to the playoffs, and then we'll roll with that?
I think they're trying to figure it out. And I think what they're looking at is the players they have, and are they pieces that are there for the long term? And I can bring up people like Hugo Gonzalez, who's really a very good defender, 19 years old. Josh Minot, they found this guy, and this guy can play. He's a good defender. He gets a lot of gets in foul trouble easily, but he can play, and he's becoming a decent shooter, which I thought was his weakest part. Off the ball defensively, he's excellent. On the ball, he's really good. Boston puts him against all the scorers on other teams. So they're finding pieces, and it's a work in progress. They're still figuring out how to fit in with each other. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I think they have some talent, not a great deal, but some talent to win 40, 45 games. But you can't go out and lose to Utah. And you can't do those kind of things. So that's where they are. But I think by the time Tatum is back, which probably next year, but could be this year, they'll have some things figured out and they'll be ready to make a run. I forgot to mention Kada, Nehemias Kada, he's starting to get double-doubles. He's playing well. The big problem with him, he's not bulky enough to handle guys that are. but he could play.
The Celtics are struggling. We expected the struggle. The Magic are struggling, and we did not expect that
Well,
struggle. This is odd. So the Orlando Magic's rough start. I'm going to ask you: is this a blueprint for the season? Is this who they are, or is this just a bump in the road for them?
it's a good question. I think the big thing, there's two things that are hanging out there. One is your defense is not nearly as good as it was last year. I think they were 14th rated this year. Last year, they were second in the league. So it's really not as good. So that's big because they were always a tough team, physical, and they still are. They're big and they do that. They have all that, but it just hasn't gelled. And the other thing, they've never been a good outside 3-point shooting team. So that's hurt them. It's hurt them last year. It hurts them this year. The other interesting thing, I didn't really write about it, but Paolo Banchero, everybody who is involved in the NBA was saying this guy will become a superstar. He hasn't taken that step. And that's a big thing because Franz Wagner has become a better shooter from the three, and he's a better player. But Paulo is still where he was. Not a great foul shooter. He's not scoring at the rate he did. There's a lot of not little, but questions about him. And if he doesn't progress to where he should, that's going to bring Orlando down. And let me just say, I thought Orlando would be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. And it still could happen, but it's going to really depend on if Paolo becomes the star we expect him to be.
Yeah. Yeah, still young, still can make that jump, but yeah, I get that. And the Magic, yeah, really low middle when it comes to 3-point percentage, certainly not where they want to be. So you just to answer the question, you see this more as a bump in the road, but a key's got to be Banchero making that jump.
Yeah, and I think there's something I didn't mention is Desmond Bain is not shooting real well.
Yeah.
And Desmond Bain is a proven 3-point shooter. They paid a lot for to bring him in.
Yeah.
And he's a good player. And he's not really shooting real well. I don't know if it's something in the water in Orlando or what, but it seems like last year was Caldwell Pope who couldn't shoot threes. So I don't know what goes on there, but they're not shooting real well, and they never do. You thought when they got Desmond Bain, that would make them with Suggs and Bain and Banchero and Wagner. And you thought, my goodness, this team is Suggs stays healthy. They're good. And it just hasn't really at all happened.
It's always fun at this time of the year when you take a look at the players or the teams that were assembled during the offseason and you think that's a good team on paper, but it just doesn't pan out as well. I think we're seeing the same situation in Los Angeles with the Clippers. Looked great on paper, but it's just not panning out.
Well, modern basketball, more so than the older times, I think teams need time to play together because the game is different now. Again, I go back to a time when if you were over 6'8", they put you down on the block and they threw the ball in the post.
Sure.
Now, cheat guys, they're guards and they can shoot. So the game is changing a lot. And I think adapting to each other is important. Now, Desmond Bain, with that group, he brings an intangible, and maybe he's struggling to fit in. I don't know, but it's a different team when you put Bain on the court because now he's going to get more shots and he's more in the offense than Caldwell Pope was last year. So things change, and maybe that's hurting Banchero. But so game with new players, the game changes.
Yeah, you could put 5 of the best players in the world on the team, but there's still only one basketball. So figuring that out takes some time. Let's talk about the defending Eastern Conference champion Indiana Pacers. They are having a difficult season, understandably. Again, lots of injuries. Do they buy into the tank, or do they try to salvage it this season? What do you think?
First of all, let's think about this. Tyrese Halliburton's out for the year. We know that. Ben Catherine, who's made good steps forward, is only 2 games. Obi Toppin 3, and he's going to be out for a long time. Andrew Nembhard has played 1. TJ McConnell, their other point guard, would come down all along. Now, most teams would look at that and say, look, we lost Miles Turner, so let's get a lottery pick and see what we can do. Sure. I don't see that in Rick Carlisle. They're just not that good. But I don't see it in Rick Carlisle, meaning he's going to try to win every game he can.
Sure.
And I don't think management in Indiana is going to be upset about that because Rick Carlisle right now, after what he did last year, he can do anything he wants in Indiana. He's a hero.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. I don't think they have the talent. I think they will be in the lottery if these injuries continue, obviously. But Carlisle will try in every way to keep them in playing and winning. And again, we talk about the injuries. Miles Turner is a big loss because he helped them. He was always a bailout guy with the three when the offense late in the shot clock broke down, and he rebounded, and he was also a presence around the rim.
Sure.
So that's a big loss too. But I just don't see that happening.
Always hate to talk about injuries in the game, but it seems every year we talk about injuries in the game. It's just the way it is. Another thing we talk about often are 3-point shots, right? We're going to end with this. And you talked about the Celtics and the Utah game that referenced here, but NBA players are taking more 3-point shots than ever before. So I'm going to just ask you a general question here. Is that good? Is that bad? Or is that indifferent for the game overall?
What do you think about the 3-point shot?
I remember when it, like you, I remember when it happened. I remember the season they had none, and then they had him. They had it. And the Lakers, I'll remember, drafted Brad Holland, who's a really good 3-point shooter from UCLA, thinking that was going to be their sniper. And the NBA, I think in total, took 1 or 2 3-point shots, in that first season. It was a novelty. It was a novelty. When somebody took the three, you got really excited. And then just over time to see what's become of it. Now it's just an important part of the game. I think, listen, at the end of the day, that extra point, if you're shooting 30%, because what are you shooting? You're shooting 40, 45, maybe 50% if you're really good from the mid-range. I don't know. I think do the math. Yeah, it makes sense. Take as many threes as you can. You're going to get more points. And it's tough. It's a difficult shot to defend, I think. So I think it's good, but I think watching 80s highlights when there was no 3-point, it's a different game. It's a different basketball game. And I think there's areas of that game that I miss. So I don't know. I'm torn. I love the game. I love watching the game, but it's difficult. What do you think?
First of all, I believe the 3-point shot came into existence in 81.
Okay.
And by the way, here's a trivia question for you. Who made the first 3-point shot in the NBA?
I know who almost made it because we talked to him on this show. That was Kevin Gravy, right? He thought he made the first shot.
He didn't.
But they found out that somebody beat him to about a couple of seconds or something. And honestly, to this day, I forget who that was.
Chris Ford.
Chris Ford of the Celtics. There you go.
Well, yeah. And if you watch the film of him shooting it, it was really a nod, not like NBA players shoot today.
Oh, sure.
Enough of that. Boston lost against Indiana. They shot 11 for 51 from 3,
Wow.
which is barely above 20%. Having done that, you start to think about it. Naturally, the people start saying, don't do it, and so on. I wrote this the other day, and just something to think about. Many years ago, I went to a game, I think it was in New Orleans, and the Celtics were playing. And Marcus Smart was before the game. And I really, if you go to a game and you're a fan, get there early. Usually the gates open an hour and a half before. Get there then, because that's when players are out there doing a workout, shooting and all. Marcus Smart, who is never known as a 3-point shooter. And I was amazed. I'm watching him and he's moving from station to station around the 3-point line. And at one point he made 10 in a row. And I'm sitting there saying, this guy is considered a terrible shooter in the NBA. These guys are not good. So the thing I use that for one reason, very simple. If you are an NBA player and you are open, you should shoot the ball.
Right.
Your weak shooter can shoot that well. What does Jalen Brunson do? He's not going to miss if he's wide open, or he's going to shoot at a pretty high percentage. The point again, and just to if an NBA player is open, he should shoot the ball. That's the extent of it. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and say DeAndre Ayton should be taking threes. I don't think he can. I don't think he's got good accuracy. But you know what? This year, I've seen Andre Drummond take a three. He made one. So it means Kada took a three a couple weeks ago. So these big guys who you'd never think would shoot a three are doing it. And they're adding it to their game to the point where you have to defend them, and that makes them more valuable in the NBA because now you're bringing people away, as we talked about earlier. So my thought being again, you got to take it if it's there. And only a few of those shots that Boston took against Utah were banned shots, meaning defended shots. They were just ice cold.
Yeah.
And they still were hung around. And there was a tough call on Jalen Brown at the end of the game where a guy fell down, he tripped, and they didn't make the foul call. And that's where Boston lost the game. And it went on the last 2-minute report. That foul should have been called. But they shouldn't have been close with Utah, except for the fact that they shot 11 for 51.
Yeah. It's funny how far the pendulum has swung, right? In 81, right? It was a rarity to see guys shoot it. Now, it's a rarity when you see a player who's never taken one. Who's taken one, I think, in Ivica Zubac, not a three-point shooter. I think he's taken one or two in his life. It's just so wild the way the pendulum has swung. In a lot of ways, and I know you follow baseball, it's like the math behind, do I take that base, right? Do I steal second? Is there bang for buck there? It's not exactly the same, right? But if I had a guarantee that I could steal second base 30% of the time, would I do it? In baseball, heck no. That's not enough. 70% of the time I would be out. But in basketball, if you're making 30% of that three-point shot, there's some value there. So you've got to take it. And that's just the way the game is today.
It is. And a lot of times we get ourselves caught up in tradition.
Yeah.
And so on. And sometimes you got to realize things just change and you got to deal with them. You were talking about the Lakers with Zubac, with Clippers with Zubac. He's one of the few guys in the NBA.
Don't say.
That's a post player.
Yeah.
A true post player. But what's interesting is he doesn't get as many shots as you would think he would get in the post because they don't enter the ball to him as often a lot of post players of the past did. And he's pretty effective down there.
Yeah.
The game has changed where teams don't enter the ball, they take the three and move the ball. When you move the ball from side to side, you get an open three. And that's what happens.
Yeah. Big Zoo, a career 8% three-point shooter. So he has made one somewhere along the line. I'm not going to dig too deep into the stats, but yeah, he is quintessential throwback center and a rarity in today's NBA. But that is it. You heard the buzzer go off. Our time is up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article. We'll link it wherever you are listening or watching to this today. Please, as always, subscribe, follow, comment. All that stuff matters to us, and we're grateful for all of it. Join us next week for more random NBA thoughts as we recap week number 4 in the NBA. Thanks, Steve. We'll talk then.
Take care.